Spoiler warning for the entire Project Moon franchise. Icebergs. They're by and large my favourite form of content on YouTube, only tied with fast-paced gameplay edits. I mean, they're just so versatile. Instead of watching a really long video essay on just one singular subject, you get a ton of tiny fun facts from everything in a single video. And it has come to my attention that somehow, some way, there isn't a single Project Moon Iceberg video. But you think there would be. I thought there would be given how lore-rich this series is, but nah. But I'm gonna be the change I want to see in this world. So I present to you my not-so-definitive but still totally cool Project Moon fact and trivia iceberg that I made myself from scratch, and that is why the text is so wonky.
Graphic design is my passion.
Now, to be fair, I created this with some inspiration from another iceberg created by Reddit user Prince Noel. And by inspiration, I mean I took a small few things from his iceberg and put them into mine. And yes, his is a lot larger and nicer looking. But size doesn't matter, okay? A lot of this stuff is either fan theories or just stuff that I personally don't really care about. So I made my own. Though, that being said, his is good too, and you should definitely check it out after the video. I'm also going to assume you have a grasp of what an iceberg video actually is, so I'll keep the description brief. Throughout this video, I will be going layer by layer. From the sky above the iceberg being common knowledge and well-known facts, to the bottom being either darker or more obscure facts that you probably don't know. But one thing I do know for fact is that I probably missed a ton of stuff. So, if there's any more facts you want to see in the potential future iceberg, leave them in the comments below, because if I do get enough submissions, I will do a sequel to this. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing if you go on to enjoy the video. I'm still after my main goal of 10k subscribers, and any bit truly and utterly helps. Thank you very much. Anyways, this intro was far too long for an iceberg video, so let's just jump into it. Wonderlab, Distortion Detective, and Leviathan. These three titles are all peripheral web series / comics released to tie in with each respective game of the franchise. Wonderlab was made as a webcomic for Lobotomy Corporation, and it goes more into the lives of the employees and life in other branches, which is something I was desperately wishing would be referenced in Limbus, but looks like that's never happening. Distortion Detective is my personal favourite of the three, and it features an entirely new setting completely untied to the main story. With the detective Moses, who detects distortions with her distortion detecting pal Ezra, and that's all I'm saying, because your homework tonight is to go read it for yourself. It is, as I just said, my favourite piece of PM media, and I still overdose on copium every single day waiting for that inevitable game. I mean, the Distortion Detective game is still happening, guys. Right? Right? And lastly, Leviathan is a comic turned web novel about the colour, the Red Gaze, also known as Virgilius, and how he got to where he is in Limbus Company. Personally, I don't really care too much for Leviathan, as it adds some stuff into the franchise like Mirror Worlds that I personally despise. But Faust is in it, so 11 out of 10 book, New York Times bestseller featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. Ham Ham Pang Pang. Ham Ham Pang Pang, or HHPP for short, is Project Moon's official cafe situated in Suwon, South Korea. The cafe serves PM-themed food and official merchandise that is pretty cheap over there, but it will cost you your literal firstborn child to get it shipped over the pond. I have a few things from Ham Ham Pang Pang myself, like the Warp Core pad and my coolest possession ever, the Lobotomy Corporation art book. But fuck man, that stuff wasn't cheap. You also can't get the merchandise officially shipped yet anyways, I had to get a proxy to send it over to me. The cafe often runs themes that change the interior of the joint, the objectively coolest of which being the Warp theme, and that also gave us a sick ass animation teaser. The cafe looks neat, and I mean hey, I'll make it my mission to go there in person someday. Kickstarter abnormalities. As part of Lobotomy Corporation's initial Kickstarter campaign, the backers who gave the most moolah would get their very own abnormality. And what did people do with this divine power? They made horny. And also cool. But this is the only one people seem to remember. Backer abnos are not needed for 100% completion, and this is just my personal thoughts, but I don't think we'll ever see them return in a mainline game. Since we didn't see any in Ruina, and not a sign of them in Limbus yet, I don't think there's any hope for Melting Love fans. It is a definite shame to be sure. But it's still cool that Project Moon at some point in time allowed their most devoted fans to put something in the game. Millie. This one, above all else, needs very little introduction. Millie are a Japanese band consisting of 5 members, with the one that most people know being the lead singer, Cassie Way. They have made an entire ass album for Library of Ruina, alongside 3 songs for Limbus Company as of the time I'm making this video. Their Ruina album, To Kill a Living Book, is widely considered one of their best, and it seems to be the main gateway for most people to get into the franchise. This isn't the only time they ever made music for a game though, as they also made the entire soundtrack for Ender Lilies in 2021, which is a banger game, and if you at all enjoy the more atmospheric Millie songs, please go play this game. It is very likely that Millie will make a whole ass other album for Limbus, and if that's the case, all I can ask is for more variety in the music, please. Ruina had a completely different feeling song in every single fight, whereas in Limbus, Between Two Worlds and Fly My Wings, despite both being absolutely impeccable songs, just sound a bit too samey for my tastes. Or maybe I'm just tone deaf, who knows. Unused abnormalities. I mean, it's kinda in the name. This refers to abnos that weren't present in either LobCorp or Ruina, but at one point in development were planned to be. The most major examples I can think of are Nosferatu and Price of Silence, who were meant to be, but weren't in LobCorp, but instead in the future made their debut in Ruina. And in Ruina, Rodolta and Granny were planned additions among others, but ultimately got scrapped to, I assume, them not really fitting any floor in particular, since every floor kind of followed the team in that game. Or maybe they just couldn't get the fights to work. Who knows? Fans have attempted to mod these abnos back into both games with some spot-on recreations, I must say. So, if you're ever craving new abno fights, hit up Nexus Mods. Sinners are based on books. This refers to the fact that all the sinners in Limbus Company are in fact based on a book of some sort, with the only exception being Yi-san, who is instead based on a Korean poet of the same name. Faust is based on Faust, Don Quixote on Don Quixote, Ryoshu on Hell's Scream, Meersalt on The Stranger, alternatively known as that one TF2 revolver, Hong Lu on Dream of the Red Chamber, Heathcliff on Wuthering Heights, Ishmael on Moby Dick, Rodion on Crime and Punishment, Otis on Homer's Odyssey, Gregor on Metamorphosis, Yuri on someone's Wattpad account, and Dante, and by extension Virgilius, on The Divine Comedy. I don't really get companies' obsessions with basing anime characters on pre-existing things, like guns, game consoles, and warships, but we got Faust. Faust is worth it. Nuggets. This refers to the community-given, eventually canon name of Project Moon custom characters. Nuggets are highly customizable in both LobCorp and Ruina, and can offer a more personal attachment to the games, as you might scream at your idiot baby for not doing their job right. I have my own, and you're seeing him right now. This is Gregory, aka the poster boy of my channel, and my main man in my 100% LobCorp run, but almost any Project Moon fan worth their salt that you ask will have their own personal nugget. Or even a couple, and some fuckers give theirs whole ass lore. Like, this stuff has its own entire fandom. It's honestly really cool, but be wary out there in the internets, because there are some weirdos who commission artists to draw their nugget with an official character. I can't even just begin to imagine who would do such a thing. But I digress. Nuggets originated in LobCorp before being delegated to party members in Ruina, and were then just entirely removed in Limbus Company, but I can't wait for the next installment, or just even if they return in Limbus someday as an avatar creator or something. But only time will tell. Love Town. This refers to probably the most infamous part of any of the Project Moon games. Love Town is an urban plague reception in Library of Ruina that shows how Warp Corp operate. It starts 2 receptions earlier, with the Molar Office fixers boarding the warp train behind 2 lovebird young people. The warp trains, supposedly, only take 10 seconds to get from point A to point B. And it's technically not false advertisement for the people on the outside. You see, the train takes longer than 10 seconds. 10 seconds turn to 10 minutes, turn to 10 hours, turns to 10 days. After the first day, the Molar Office fixers have already escaped using the library invitation they had, leaving only the young couple and a bunch of weary passengers, 2 of which, a DILF and a MILF. And these 2 are very important to the plot. They urge Tommy and Mary, the 2 lovers, that they must combine their strength if they are to be safe on the train. Mary accepts at first, but Tommy is hesitant. After 100 days, Tommy accepts the offer, and thus, nearly 2,000 years later, we get introduced to Tamari, the guardian of Love Town. I must also mention that people cannot die inside of the train, only adding to the horror factor, but you can still feel absolutely everything. Meaning that if you had a paper cut going into the train, you'd have that cut for 2,000 years and feel every second of it. This makes the decorations of Love Town a whole lot less whimsical. However, When a train reaches its destination, using the power of warp singularity, everyone is returned to how they were for the initial 10 seconds of the ride, memories wiped and all, meaning that all that torture and all that suffering was for nothing. This mercy didn't happen for the Lovetown citizens, however, as the MILF from earlier, who they literally call Mommy, it's not just me saying that, had given them an invitation to the library, where they meet their untimely end. The fight for this reception also features the Millie song, From a Place of Love, which is my favourite of their entire discography. This is easily the darkest and most disturbing the series ever gets, and I'd be amiss if I didn't include it on the Iceberg somewhere. The reception itself also holds immense meaning to me, as it was my initial exposure to the Project Moon series. And if I had truly never seen Lovetown, then I wouldn't be here making this video right now. And the only reason I have this higher on the Iceberg and not lower is because, well, everyone who's played Ruina knows this. So it is common knowledge, but I still wanted to talk about it. Unused to Kill a Living Book song. This refers to the song Salt, Pepper, Birds and the Thought Police, which isn't present anywhere inside of Library of Ruina, but it is a song included in the To Kill a Living Book album made for it. I honestly don't know where the song could have even fished aside from maybe Keith or Realization? So it's probably a good thing they didn't force it in. But that being said, this song is horrifically depressing, and it has made me cry without fail every single time I've listened to it. If you're very, very prone to feels from music, I have to slap a warning label on this, because, oh god man, it is sad. Phenomenal song, but Jesus Christ, it's miserably sad. Limbus Company was originally a roguelike, so I'm a little bit hazy on this one, and I can't really find definitive proof online, as finding any type of PM stuff pre-Keith or Realization is like very hard. But at some time in development, I do remember for a fact that Limbus Company, known only at the time as LCB, was originally meant to be a roguelike, akin in tone to the Darkest Dungeon series. And though that obviously isn't the case now, and we ended up with the only thing worse than a roguelike, an auto-battler, aspects of Limbus' original design are still present in it today. The most obvious of which being the mirror dungeons and their ego gift system, looking like something straight out of a roguelike. If the change was good or not is up to you, but it is interesting to think about an alternate dimension where we did get a good single-player game instead of a gacha. LobCorp beta versions. So one of the most talked about things of LobCorp has to be its development. This game was cooking for years before eventually ending up as the game we know today. The beta versions were extremely bare bones, not even featuring proper character sprites for characters like Angela, and some featuring drastically different designs for beloved Sephora. Hot was Ginger, goddammit! Nuggets were also extremely low quality, looking like fat-ass South Park characters, and the art in general was just lower quality due to obvious budget constraints. I don't want to get too in detail now because there is more specific entries down the Iceberg, but I also kind of want to make a full video about this someday, as there is a metric fuck ton to talk about. Sephora Notes in Art Book. This refers to the fact that during the entire Library of Ruina art book, little notes from the Sephora are present that comment on various characters and parts of the city. These are extremely cute and add some very well deserved character interactions that are kind of lacking in the main game, all things considered. My personal favourite of which has to be the realisation that Chesed has taken warp trains. Tough luck, pal. I don't want to show too many of these though, since again it is one of those things you should really check out for yourself, but it has to be the single best inclusion in the art book. It makes these already lovable goofs even more lovable, especially Hod. She's just so innocent. Jacksepticeye played LobCorp. Oh man! So the reason this is on here is because it's common for PM fans to freak out when their games get any kind of attention from anyone with a moderate following, and normally I don't give these any care, but as the token Irish creator for Project Moon, because yes, every fan base has one, I must pay my respects to Jacksepticeye for being an OG and playing Legacy LobCorp way back in the day.
And it kind of reminds me of Fallout Shelter in a way.
It's actually great, because I'm sure if you walked up to him today and asked him, "Hey Jack, what did you think of LobCorp?" he'd stare at you and he'd go, "Hildy hurdy hurdy haw pat short, hildy hildy hoda hoda haw breakfast roll, hildy hoda 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 haw hurling, heedy heedy hoda haw Belfast." So thank you, Sean, for probably getting thousands into the franchise. Jeez, very cool. References in achievements. Library of Ruina is the only game in the trilogy to feature achievements, but a lot of the names are either direct references to pop culture, memes, the community, or the game itself. Some of my favourite examples include the cloned rabbit's dream of rapid gashes, A reference to the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which itself is referenced a ton in this series. To die at the hands of a hero, which you earn from killing Mio with Red Mist's key page. This directly references LobCorp, where Mio says to Gabora that she used to look up to her when she was a colour. And your very own nugget, which you get for making a custom librarian. This is a direct reference to the community calling employees nuggets. And this is where Project Moon started to inherit the name into canon themselves. There are obviously a lot more, but some are either extremely obvious or just not worth mentioning. Sephira are based on the Kabbalah. This basically refers to the fact that all the Sephira in LobCorp and Ruina are based on the Jewish Tree of Life. This is where the order of floors in both games come from. And also, what the floor select screen is directly referencing in Ruina. However, what you may notice is that the original names are quite different from the ones of the characters we know and love, except a few. Now, why they changed them kinda beats me, but I do prefer some of the name changes just for pronunciation's sake. And also just because Project Moon probably didn't want to make a carbon copy of very popular religious iconography for their characters. Keither seems to be the only exception in both games, as in LobCorp it's Aeon and in Ruina it's Roland. And also, some depictions of the tree include something called Dot, which I assume is meant to be where Angela goes, but I'm not sure. Blockma. Blockma is a running community joke. It originated in Hakma's lore in Ruina, promoting defensive builds with the Abno cards that it gives you, and with his name Hakma sounding like Blockma was born. It has somehow kept its relevancy from being probably the most fun build to use in the entire game, as it shakes up how you approach every single fight, and also because the name lends itself to Ligma jokes. Blockma balls. If you find Ruina stale or you want to play but can't think of much to do, I highly recommend trying out a Blockma build. Blockma has spawned a variety of different memes across the community and has generally been one of the most light-hearted and fun jokes, and thankfully has stood the test of time. Good on ya, Hakma. This is why you're the best set for it. DD cancellation. DD cancellation does not refer to my public takedown, but instead to Project Moon's unceremonious cancellation of Distortion Detective, leaving the bloody book unfinished. But the supposedly official answer is that Project Moon said they wanted to make Distortion Detective a full game instead of a web series. This seems radical. This is really cool. But I'd be lying if I said my hopes weren't wavering ever since Limbus was announced. I adore DD. I really do. It's my favourite piece of media from the franchise. And I genuinely do anything for even a continuation, let alone a game. But until B-Moon decides to stop rubbing shoulders with every catch under the sun, we Distortion Detective fans are left in the dark smoking mad copium. One day, people, we will get a DD game. I believe. Xenacat. Xenacat is probably the single most popular thing to ever spawn from the Ruina community. Only really challenged by Bong Bong, but even that can be questioned. Xena is a character that shows up for one cutscene and a scripted fight at the end of Ruina, and she is still somehow one of the most popular characters in the franchise. Originally drawn by the artist Cabrick, Xenacat is a jokingly drawn parody of an otherwise serious character to make her look like a cartoony kitten. I'm pretty sure these are based on some sort of other fan art for some character called Kiaru or something like that, from an anime called Princess Connect Redive? Princess Connect.
Is that a threat?
Xenacat drawings had always been popular among the community, but it had exploded in popularity. Funnily enough, after Limbus released for some unbeknownst reason to me. They got popular enough to spawn other artists to make their own variations too, such as artist Musal, who's creating his very own Don Quixote cats. And I will make a Doncat video when he has enough made, I promise. And even these other older various Ruina ones who, unfortunately, I have never been able to find the artists to. So if any of you know who did draw these masterpieces, I'd love to know. Thank you. Anyways, that just about wraps it up for the second layer. But now it's time to get into some stuff you likely don't know. Orlando Furioso. Orlando Furioso is a poem by Lodovico Ariosto, written in 1516. It's about a knight who goes to war leaving his home behind, only to be met with pain and suffering as well as various betrayals. Sound familiar? Roland's story in Ruina is heavily inspired by the original poem, all the way down to his involvement in the Smoke War, having a lover called Angelica, and a special attack which you unlock at the end of the game being called Furioso. He's yet another character in the franchise to be heavily based on classic literature, and to be honest, including the Limbus cast, he's probably the best executed, just due to the subtleness of his influence. Wonderlab Abnos are based on fairy tales. This entry is very heavily speculation, but it is believed that the reason behind the vast majority of Wonderlab Abnos being based on fairy tales is because the author of the webcomic had supposedly never actually finished LobCorp. This is all speculation, of course, but it would certainly explain the weird trend. Now, I think it's cool. You get a Rapunzel lab node, the Queen from Alice in Wonderland, more Wizard of Oz characters, and even a Red Riding Hood aberration. I mean, like, I'm a massive fan of the Wonderland Admirals despite this theory, but it's an interesting one to consider nonetheless. Price of Silence fight on Xbox. The Xbox port for Library of Ruina is just such an enigma. It changes so much menial stuff that it's worthy of its own video, but the one I want to focus on tonight is the Price of Silence fight. On PC, the Abnormality fight is home to a time limit gimmick. You have to pick your cards and plan your moves in under 30 seconds every turn, otherwise the fight automatically begins. But on Xbone, due to the naturally slower gameplay on controller, you're given 45 seconds instead. Now this is a tiny change, but an interesting one nonetheless, as technically speaking, the fight is easier on console. So is Xbox secretly pay to win? No, it's not, but I still like a PlayStation port, please. Theme 02. Studio EIM, the main composers for Ruina, have made some fucking bangers in their time. Like this one. And this one. And even this one! But you want to know the kicker about the one you're listening to right now? This is called Theme 02, and this song isn't even in the game. You see, despite being used in trailers for the games and even the old credits music before it was replaced by Poems of a Machine, this song isn't present anywhere in the base game. And that's criminal, because this song blows the library theme out of the water. And the biggest kick in the cock is the fact that in the current credits, Poems of a Machine just replays itself after it finishes, when Theme 02 would fit perfectly in as a second song. And Project Moon, if you really do not want to use it as a credit song, then you could have at least slotted it into Keita Realization or hell, the Distortion Ensemble somewhere. As to me, this song screams grand finale fight. This is the biggest travesty in the franchise, but at least we still have the song. It bangs. Thank you, EIM. LobCorp 13.
Lobotomy Corporation 13 is a free remake of Project Moon's first game in an obscure engine called Space Station 13, featuring almost 150 abnormalities in a multiplayer setting, including almost every Lobotomy Corporation, Limbus Company, and Wonderlab abnormality. Includes many returning features, as well as plenty of new features such as PE refinement and sales, abnormality chemicals, clerk gadgets, and phishing. Gather your friends and play with many other players around the world to go up against fan favorites such as Nothing There, Ebony's Queen Apple, and Melting Glove, as well as never-before-seen fights such as Distorted Form and God of the Seasons. Play as clerks, agents, managers, Sephira, rabbits, rhinos, fixers, and syndicates with other players in real time. Join in our so-called best Project Moon fan game today. Face the fear, fight with your friends.
Unreleased renders and Ham Ham Pang Pang merchandise. Alright, this one is extremely obscure, so just stick with me for it. So, Ham Ham Pang Pang sell a ton of Project Moon merchandise, as previously mentioned in Layer 1, and one of their most common items is A4 holders. These are basically just plastic paper holders with pictures of characters on them, and the interesting part is that the background prints are the same as the original games, but the characters in the foreground are completely brand new renders never seen before or after, drawn by the original artist. And like, these renders aren't available anywhere online unless you try to crop them out yourself, which just ends up looking pretty nasty. The saddest one of them all though has to be the Pierre one. It is extremely cute looking, but it's lost in limited time merchandise hell. At least the Colin Care tributes are still cute. Faust Simp War. Alright kids, sit down and let me tell you of the Grand Faust Simp War. Way back in the distant time of March 2023, two idiots with a point to prove decided to go to war over a fictional anime woman because she had finally gotten some attention from her devs. This war was an obscenely one-sided battle, because the side with more money, I mean luck, suffered little casualties, whereas the side with much more determination, units saved up with ideals and dreams, suffered a heavy loss due to extremely unfair odds. Ripples of this war were felt in history, as other idiots decided to fight over more anime women in a similar fashion. This was truly the saddest thing to ever happen in Limbus history, and taught me to value peace. Jealous Flower and Turbulence Office. Gelatin Power and Turboculosis are two of the most infamous mods ever created for Ruina. They are known for their comically hard, sometimes borderline unfair fights that push the game to its limits and are truly made for people who love the gameplay of Ruina. I'm not one of those people, so I haven't played the mods all the way through myself, but for what I did play of them, they're solid projects. On the topic, some other notable Ruina mods include Reverse Library, which is basically a whole new campaign, the Distortion Detective mod, which tries to adapt the DD novel, my mod, made by Sumi, a developer of Turbulence Office, thanks Sumi, the Ender Lilies mod, still like that game, and the Goku mod, based. The modding scene for Ruina is too vast for me to name every single good one out there, but it's kind of amazing how such a niche game has such a wide and skilled modding fanbase. Purple Tear pronunciation. This is a debate as old as time itself in the fanbase. The pronunciation of Yori's colour name, the Purple Tear. Now, some people think it's Tear, some think it's Tear, but it is Tear. I don't care what anyone says, it's Tear. Some people would be like, actually it's Tear because of Korean pronunciation and also her symbol has a tear on it. 1, that snake venom is proven by her dress having snake scales on it. And 2, it doesn't matter if that's how it's said in Korean. We don't call Roland Lowland, so I call Tear Tear. And also she's called Tear because she literally tears through space and time. And that's a lot more badass than having a tear on your symbol. So I'm putting this debate to rest right now. It's all there, black and white, clear as crystal. It's pronounced Purple Tear. You use dialect as an argument, which doesn't work, so you get nothing. You lose. Good day, sir. Welchers is based on a real drink. As it turns out, the abnormality Welchers is in fact based on a real-life brand of grape soda called Welch's. Now, I've never had Welch's and I can't find it where I live, so I can't comment on it, but I can say that Welchers is easily one of the funniest abnos in the game. And now it's my goal to try Welch's in real life because of them. There isn't much more to say about this one. It's cute, cheerful, and shrimply mantastic. Bono Fingers. Now, this is one I feel isn't talked about nearly enough, and warning, it may ruin the way you see this character forever. You see, the character of Bono, he's hiding a horrible secret. Doc Ock over here has 4 hands with 3 fingers on each one, except this one. Yeah, for some reason, one of Bono's hands has 4 fingers on it. Why? Beats me, but it isn't like this is an oversight or anything, no, because you can clearly see in the sprite art that he has 4 fingers on this hand, and if somehow you think that was also an oversight and the artist might have just drawn both of them in the same night and not known, well, I'll prove you wrong, because look at the Ham Ham Pang Pang merch, he has 4 fingers on it again. This really bugs me to an unhealthy degree, and I just want to know why. Why the hell does he only have 4 fingers on one hand? There's nothing about this in the art book either. What's the point? What purpose does that serve for him? Anyways, I hope I could ruin the character for you too, and now that you can see it, you can never unsee it. King of Greed Roland. This refers to the early design for the King of Greed Roland, present in the art book, that you would have fought in Tifret's floor realization. But, you see, instead of the dress we have now, Roland would have embraced his inner queen and shown off his absolute thunder thighs. This one is kind of a no-brainer as to why they scrapped it and gave him a different design. Though it is still a painful loss. Roland's lap pillow may be gone forever, but it's not forgotten. Project Moon, please bring this back to Beer Salt, I'll pay out the nose. Character birthdays. While still on the topic of the art book, I must mention something else cool it does, and that's give every single character a birthday. Now, some of these are cute references, like how Rudolph was born on the 24th of December, and not to Santa Claus and Christmas, of course, and how our Lord and Saviour, Nemo Christ, was born on the 25th of December, but some are a little more dark, like Hod's being on the 10th of September, also known as this. Yeah, real smooth there, Project Moon. If any of you own the art book, flick through it and tell me if you share any birthdays with the characters. For me, I share one with Lowell. Couldn't care less about the character, but it's neat that we share a birthday. Gabora cutout. Details on this one are extremely scarce, and finding any photo evidence is tough as nails. But this one has been kicked around the community so much that I believe it is real myself. So basically, the original Library of Ruina ending caused some uproar among the community. I'll get more into that later down the iceberg, but for now all you need to know is that one fan was extremely disappointed. And this guy felt the best way to take his anger out was to go to Ham Ham Pang Pang, go up to the Gabora cutout present, and just shank the shit out of it, leaving it heavily stabbed beyond repair. Thankfully, no actual people were hurt and the guy left straight after, but this is probably the single most bizarre act of hate I've ever heard of. And as far as I know, if this is true, then the guy is still out there somewhere, just waiting for the next chance to come in and shank a cardboard cutout. Best hope Limbus' ending is good first time round. Bloodbath is Carmen. This one is pretty fan theory heavy, but it's commonly believed that Bloodbath is an abnormality spawned entirely from Carmen and her self-game ending. This was always just a theory, a game theory, because she was the only character who did the dirty deed cheap in a bathtub, but it kind of semi-proven to be canon in Key to Realization, when the very first fight is against Fortnite Fall Damage Angela. I think out of every single fan theory out there, this one is probably the most widely accepted as canon, and it fits to be fair. But my only complaint is that Carmen never actually truly dies, since she was suspended in Aen's pickle jar, so how was the bloodbath conceived as an abno? I feel it may have been just through the emotional grief that she felt leading up to her cleaning her gun while it was loaded, but I'm not sure. Anyways, it's an interesting one to think about and theorise, but it does kind of not make any sense if you think about it. Hubert's height. Now this one doesn't exclusively refer to Hubert's height, but instead the general height of characters in the franchise. Hubert himself is 6 foot 9 inches, making him the tallest human character in the series. This by itself is just unreal, but a majority of characters in the franchise are above 6 foot. I only bring this up because I wanted to mention that every P-Moon character is just like 2/3 legs. Like, these motherfuckers are built like Lupin the Third characters, it's unreal. Despite this, they still got absolute twigs for legs, but maybe we should have kept King of Greed Roland. Aen meme. Have you ever seen this reaction image online? I bet you have, but did you know that this extremely popular image that has been used millions of times online was in fact originally a Lobotomy Corporation meme? Unfortunately, I couldn't find the artist, but this meme is meant to portray the player's genuine rage with Aen due to the difficulty of LobCorp. But after making the rounds online, has eventually earned infamy status as just a common reaction image for people to say they're fed up with someone. So, next time you see this guy online, which you will, just remember, this is in fact A-Man, and not just some random dude with black hair. Project Moon truly is everywhere. Unique dialogue. In Library of Ruina, your librarians, custom and not, all have dialogue that they can speak in battle. For custom nuggets, you can type exactly what you want them to say, unless you're on Xbox, but for patron librarians, their dialogue is set in stone. However, certain fights with certain Sephira will trigger unique dialogue. This includes almost every single fight with a melee song, the reverb ensemble fights, and the realizations. But the most interesting ones in my opinion come from Late Star in the City, where you can see special dialogue if you enter a Purple Tears fight with Roland, showing kind of early on that these two do indeed have history. You even get an achievement if you kill her with Roland, so that's cool too. The dialogue is especially cool in semi-scripted fights like Roland vs Olivier and Angela vs herself in Key to Realization. This is something I feel is just genuinely missing from the announcers in Limbus, as it would be cool to see Dante give us 2 cents during fights instead of just being a preset message printer. Hell, even LobCorp had special dialogue for certain characters, including the rabbits. They usually just dispense generic dialogue, but if you call them in for either the Red Mist fight or the Arbiter fight, Mio will chew you out saying this wasn't part of the contract. Original Ruina ending. Before we had the distortion ensemble, before we had the head, before we even had Key to Realization, we had nothing. That's right, Library of Ruina's original ending was just killing Argalia, and then the game ends. Now obviously this isn't very well satisfying at all, so people got mad, and this garnered extreme uproar. This was probably the first time Project Moon ever got into really hot water, and it got serious. People were sending full-on death threats to the staff over this ending. And obviously, well, hopefully, you don't need me to tell you that this is immature and stupid as fuck. But Project Moon eventually caved because, well, you know, their lives were at risk. And they made the grand finale we know today, including a proper conclusion to the library being that it was sent to the outskirts. All things considered, despite the blunt ending, the old ending was just a bit better. And that's just because of the credits, because the credits had Team O2 in it. But now we have Poems of a Machine, so swapping out peak for peak. Missing Eileen wiki text. This one is personal. You see, the Library of Ruina wiki has always been kind of infamous for never being truly completed until like last year. But there is one change to the wiki I've seen no one mention anywhere, so it's up to me to expose what they took from us. You see, in Eileen's original wiki page, they described her original appearance as such. The stance Eileen takes is also very feminine, showing off her breasts, likely to stand out as a motherly-like character. But this is gone now! They took away my damn mommy Eileen! I can't have shit in City!
Unforgivable.
And now you know the true evilness of the Ruina wiki. You guys were my heroes! I'm just joking, of course. Thanks for posting all the assets online. I love you. Carmen Goat Legs. Back on the leg talk again, but this one deserves its own entry. At the end of Library of Ruina, when Carmen makes her guest appearance, she has whatever these are. Now, I need to clarify that this is not a stab at the artist, because give me a pen and paper and I couldn't even get close to this myself. But with legs like this, it's a wonder why she didn't just hop over to the head and go full Sanji on those motherfuckers. Someone once told me that her sprite was changed at some point, but I can't find anything about that online or in the art book, so we're left with good old ricket-ridden Carmen. Alongside Bono, I hope that I'm really ruining some of your favourite characters. Lady facing the wall jump scare. Back to LobCorp's betas again, but I avoided mentioning this one because I think it deserves its own section. As in current LobCorp, if you trigger Lady facing the wall's ability, she will jump scare the player with a very loud, but not that creepy stinger. However, in beta LobCorp, this was her jump scare. I'm not gonna lie, this petrified the shit out of me when I first saw it. So, I'm partially glad they took it out, but also extremely disappointed, as this one is a million times more scary. I can only assume that Project Moon thought it may have been too scary for the final cartoony product, but even so, the LobCorp we have and love today is still a horror game. I'd love to see what other stuff they might have deemed too creepy if this was too much. But it's certainly something I'd love to see come back in Limbus' art style as an aberration or something. Just put clothes on her, please. I'm sick and tired of censoring the woman. Ezra is Uncle Grandpa. This is a joke entry that points out the absolutely glaring similarities between Ezra from Distortion Detective and Uncle Grandpa from the cartoon Uncle Grandpa. You see, both of them have a light sense of humour and dress in very colourful clothes. Both of them have an interdimensional bag that carries all their tools. Both of them have a way older friend that they're always with and sometimes annoy with their antics. And both of them have a guy with glasses who at one point tried to kill them, but now they're chill with him. And last of all, both of their jobs are going to various places, helping people in need with strange jobs. Yeah, this was definitely unintentional, but they certainly share a lot of interesting traits. And now I need to see art of Ezra Grandpa, Moses Gus, and Pizza Vespa before I die. Nothing There prototype. Nothing There has become the poster boy for the abnormalities in the Project Moon franchise, and I'd even go as far as to say the mascot for the series as a whole. P-Moon constantly parade him around the games and create endless aberrations since they know the extent of his popularity. But did you know, Nothing There, and specifically his arm scythe, are in fact inspired by the metamorphic arm from the Prototype game series? Or more precisely, James Heller's from Prototype 2. When you see them side by side, it's pretty obvious to see where the inspiration arises, but I'm glad they took it since all types of arm blades in fiction are badass. It does make me wish though that Nothing There's ego weapon was a metamorphic scythe or sword that would come out of your Nugget's arm like Venom. But Mimicry is cool too. Roland is based on James McAvoy. According to the art book, so this is 100% canon and real. Roland's design is based off James McAvoy, a very popular Hollywood actor. You might know him as Professor X in the X-Men First Class series of films. Or, I don't know, the main character of Split? Now don't get me wrong, James is a phenomenal actor, and Split is a genuinely terrifying film that I can't recommend enough for thriller enthusiasts. But damn, man, knowing that Roland is based on this guy has just ruined all tension in the movie for me now. So, if you ever saw Roland and thought he looked somewhat familiar, or vice versa, you saw James and thought he looked familiar, now you know why. Roland with a bike, baby. Clerk pistols aren't for abnos. This is a little bit dark, but it's heavily hinted at throughout various dialogues, gameplay, and especially the art book, that the 9mm pistols that clerks are supplied with are, in fact, not made for subduing abnormalities, but instead for, well, you know, this is really solid subtle writing that only adds to the extreme horror that actually is LobCorp. It also adds to just how expendable the clerks truly are, since this is their company mandated quote-unquote self-defense weapon. Nemo's face. Back to the art book for the final time. Nemo is a fan favourite character that appears at the beginning of Star of the City and Library of Ruina, but he's also stinking rich, and his entire body is nearly all robotics, with only a few bits of organic material even left. So, what exactly is he hiding under that big iPad face of his? Well, it's none other than his brain, and that looks disturbing, I'm not gonna lie. But let's just put his head back on and pretend we never saw this, okay? Let's move on. Capiche. LoveCorp. LoveCorp is a Russian fan game of Lobotomy Corporation that allows you to date and mingle with the abnormalities. And it genuinely pains me to say that I have no footage of this game as I couldn't find it anywhere. Hello, editing Dave here. I did in fact find the game very easily just by looking it up on itch. It's here. I can't play it because it's in Russian, but I found it. So by the looks of it, you can only really date Queen of Hatred, fucking Knight Despair, and King of Greed. but it exists. So it's here if you want to play it. All you have to do is look up Lovecorp on itch.io and you can play it. So have fun, gamers. Lovetown is based on The Jaunting. Lovetown, and Warp Trains as a whole, I believe, are based on The Jaunt, a short story written by Stephen King in 1981 for a magazine called The Twilight Zone. It's a pretty horrifying short story about existential dread, so if you didn't like Lovetown, I'd say skip to this timestamp on screen now. It's okay, I won't judge you. Basically, the book depicts a science fiction Earth where technology has advanced so far that travel between planets is possible within seconds using a technology called the Jaunt. Now, the Jaunt acts kinda like warp technology. It teleports people from one area to another almost instantly, but there is a catch. You need to have absolutely zero brain activity to travel, otherwise severe side effects will happen. To do so, every passenger of the Jaunt is given a mask in which they breathe in gas that instantly knocks them out cold, so that when they awaken 10 seconds later, they will have travelled all the way from Earth to Mars. However, the main character's son, named Ricky, was an idiot kid, and he held his breath, meaning that he was still conscious during the Jaunt. So, little old Ricky just spent anywhere from millions to billions of years, alone, by himself in a white void, which rendered him insane. The second they leave their seats, Ricky starts to spew nonsense at Mark, his father, saying stuff like, "Long jaunt, Dad, longer than you think," and proceeds to gouge his own eyeballs out. And that's the end of the book. A bit creepy. Yeah, it freaked me out when I first read it, but in a good way. It severely reminded me of Lovetown, and I genuinely believe that LT has to be at least partially inspired by this story. And if not, then that's one hell of a coincidence. Anyways, I skipped like the entire story, so if you like that, please go read it. You can find it online for free. And hi, welcome back to those of you who skipped to this timestamp. You're just in time for Censored Breeds. There is no real easy way of saying that, so blunt it is. Yeah, Censored canonically does dirty deeds dirt cheap with your nuggets, as seen by this flavor text in the Abno logs. Now, how he does it exactly, we don't know, and I don't wanna. But if you didn't think Censored was that creepy before, hopefully you do now. It begs the question though, will we ever get to see underneath the Censored bars? I genuinely hope not, because it would just ruin the horror. My personal game theory is that Censored is a malleable organism that takes the shape of the viewer's worst fear. As then, it's scary to everyone, but obviously that's impossible to develop for a game, so bars it is. Lobotomy kink guy. Saving the best for last. This refers to their time in a fan-made Lobotomy Corporation Discord server that someone, whose name is lost to time unfortunately, joined and started acting a bit strangely. Eventually he realised the server wasn't what he was looking for and everyone else copped on. But this guy had a lobotomy fetish, and he thought LobCorp was a lewd game about its title subject. This person is still unknown to this day as all traces were deleted, but much like the Kapora cutout man, he's still out there, somewhere. And it's only a matter of time until the two of them team up and become the duo that will tear this series down. And that's about it. My full, not so full Project Moon Iceberg. This was something I wanted to make for a while, and I genuinely cannot express how grateful I am that you made it this far. I'll ask again, but if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. I'm planning on doing more long form content like this, and this video took a very long time to script, record and make. But as I said at the beginning of the video as well, I'd love to make a sequel to this if I can get enough entries. I'd also like to give another huge thank you to Kiri for adding her part to the LC13 entry. LC13 is genuinely a lot of fun, and if you're feeling any bit burnt out in Limbus, please go play it. It just reinvigorated my love for the series when I played it. Also, make sure you check out Prince Noel's Iceberg as well, links in the description. His follows a lot more fan theories and it is a fun read. Anyways, that's about all. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.